Okay. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you're doing well. Well, you must be doing okay because you're watching. So, all right. So, welcome to this week's Buddhist Church of San Francisco Sangha service, and we'll be following and also we'll be observing the May monthly memorial or Shotsuki, and also being Mother's Day weekend, we'll be also reflecting upon the idea of a mother, the source of our life, nurturing, caring, protecting, and to appreciate that spirit is part of this week's reflection. So the service will begin with the customary kansho, the calling bell, and then following that, we'll have the reading of the May Shotsuki list by our president, Keith Fujimoto. And then for today's ritual, we'll have the Sambujo, the three respectful callings, a dedication statement, and the chanting will be, as we usually do for the Shotsuki service, the Junirai, the 12 adorations praising the virtues of immeasurable light in life, wisdom, and compassion. Okay, and then I'll be offering today's Dharma reflection, and then a closing reading, a meditation from a writing that was translated into English. The writing was by a former BC minister, Reverend Fujimura. And then we will have the customary appreciations and a few announcements. And then to close this week, we'll have a musical meditation offered by Betty and Michael Fujimoto, who will be singing Hana wa Saku, a Japanese song that was composed soon after the northeastern Japan tsunami and tidal wave. And that became kind of an anthem of reaffirmation of life that never dies in that song, Hana wa Saku, which translates as flowers will bloom. Okay, so with that, we'll begin today's virtual Sangha service. Thank you for viewing. Welcome and thank you for coming on this Mother's Day to our Shotsuki Hoyo, the monthly service. Namo Dapsu, Namo Dapsu, Namo Dapsu, Namo Dapsu. We respectfully acknowledge the presence of Amida Tathagata entering this practice hall as we joyfully offer flowers of welcome. Pujo Shaka Nyorai We respectfully acknowledge the presence of Shaka Tathagata entering this practice hall as we joyfully offer flowers of welcome. Pujo Jippo Nyorai We respectfully acknowledge the presence of Tathagatas of the Universal 10 Directions entering this practice hall as we joyfully offer flowers of welcome. 本日ここにサンフランシスコ仏教会世襲となり、うやうやしく阿弥陀如来の昇臨を仰ぎ、慎みて6月の正月法要並びに母の日の法要言修す。誠に阿弥陀如来は尋常の誓願をこしたまえて、あまねく十法の主情を設計し、真実の名号をもって我らを召喚したも、しかれば活行のコーデを垂れて、大悲の本勢を聞き、歓喜肝に銘じて、尊き皆をたたえ祭らん。 願わくは先に一生あるものは後を導き、後に一生あるものは先を訪ね、愛ともに安女帰りにクエ一緒の妙化を講せん、敬って申す。Today, on the occasion of the Buddhist Church of San Francisco's May monthly memorial and a Mother's Day's commemoration, we dedicate this service in memory, gratefully acknowledging our indebtedness to those who have preceded us and the mothers who have nurtured us as we reverently come together before Amida Tathagata in oneness. Amida Tathagata, through fulfilling the profound sacred vows, universally embracing all beings through the virtues of the name. Therefore, listening reverently to the assurance of great compassion conveyed in the Buddha Dharma, filled with joy, we praise the name. May those born ahead give guidance to those who come later, and the successors seek the counsel of their predecessors, together aspiring to realize the great reunion of rebirth in the pure land of enlightenment. So we respectfully declare, Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. Junirai, the 12 adorations praising the virtues of Amida Buddha, immeasurable light and life. Keishu Tenin Shokugyo Amida Senryo Zokuson Zai Koga 弥陀尊小無常無我と薬如水月天陽老一種説法無明寺古賀将来弥陀尊非尊無説無悪名薬無如人悪道主に死心教依尊古賀将来弥陀尊非尊無量法勉強無所主悪知識往生不退死菩提古賀将来弥陀尊仮説非尊功徳寺修善無変如海水小逆前言小乗者平成主上serenity and joy. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. when sentient beings think on Amida, just as a child thinks of its mother. They indeed see the Tathagata, who is never distant, both in the present and in the future. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, good evening, good day. This passage that I just quoted was from the collected works of Shinran, and it was amongst his religious reflections or poems in the section of Hymns to the Pure Land, and it was number 115. So this is what I thought would be appropriate for this week's meditation, reflection, thoughts about our life in the light of the Dharma. To begin to appreciate that spirit of a mother's love in whatever form we may have experienced it, but to recognize that spirit of caring, nurturing, healing, but basically the source of our life, that which gave us a life. And this sense of appreciation for our life kind of occurred to me recently when I realized that I'm able to stand here today, this moment, because a century ago, as many of us have heard, there was a global pandemic that's been referred to as the Spanish flu. And so that time, because of the limited medical knowledge and so forth, it basically caused the death of millions of people around the world. But so it occurred to me that because my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents survived that I'm here today. So it's in that sense, I think we could take some sense of responsibility for being mindful and responsible so that we do the best we can to preserve and protect this very fragile existence so that there can be future generations to look back at this time in history and realize how their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, their predecessors were able to endure all of the physical, medical health challenges that we encountered. And so even thinking about the Shotsuki list, I don't know how many of those names on that list a century ago had encountered whatever virus that was going around at that time and succumbed. But again, there are others who did recover or perhaps survive that pandemic. And so that's the thought that I'll begin with, but then move into this idea that it's occurring to a lot of us and those around us, how they see this situation as a time of opportunity to reflect and to begin to think about our existence more deeply. And as we continue to practice the recommended things to do to preserve and protect our health and those around us, I think it's also an opportunity to think about what is it that we're trying to preserve and protect. So with that mind of reflection, to look at this opportunity to think about what, after all, is essential, or put it another way, important in our life. And this gives me thoughts about, in Japanese, we use this expression, isogashi, which translates as busy. And that's something, ordinarily we feel busy. That's why we don't feel that we have time to go to the temple, to stop and reflect and so forth, because we're so busy. But I always like to point out how, when I first learned how that was written in the kanji character, that it was written with two parts. One was the heart, and the other radical, we say, meant to lose. So in that context, the way the people who created that image were thinking about being busy, they saw it as to lose one's heart, to lose one's center or focus in life, because they're so consumed with all of these distractions, all of these things that draw our attention away from this basic reflection about our own sense of being. So that's why personally, I have a problem when people I understand the intent is in a way complimenting me, saying, "Oh, Sensei, you're so busy." And I have a visceral reaction when I hear that term busy, because I interpret it as, you're so distracted. You don't know what you're doing. But anyway, isogashi, busy. But given our current circumstances of being sheltering in place and having a little more time to stop and reflect, it begins to think about, how we conventionally think about things that cause us to feel so busy. And practically sure, we're from our earliest memories, we're encouraged to get a good education so that we can get a good job, so that we can have the livelihood or means of supporting ourselves and maybe starting a family and acquiring things like houses, cars, and pensions and all this and that. Our attentions are directed towards things to help preserve our physical existence and realize a measure of comfort in living. But at the same time, I think it gives us some pause to consider how even with knowledge, education, good jobs, good incomes, houses, cars, and all the other things that so-called reflect a successful life, ultimately, and this is what Shakyamuni or Siddhartha realized in his own life, that even though he was a prince, and so you'd have to presume that he was wealthy, talented, intellectually privileged, and so forth, that he had the means to survive very comfortably. But yet, he came to terms with the realization that even with all those advantages, privileges, or comforts, he would eventually go through a change we call death. And I see that as a basic, I would call it, religious concern, coming to terms with our mortality. And this pandemic is definitely bringing up that situation of what does it mean to live, because we have no way of knowing when we may die. The uncertainties of life are not new. They're just basic to our existence, because everything is uncertain, unprecedented, new, unpredictable. That's life. That's the Dharma. That's the truth and reality of our finite existence. So in that sense, the COVID-19 could be seen as a bodhisattva, a teacher, spiritual teacher that is awakening us to the reality of our mortality, but also encouraging and inspiring a sense of deeper understanding, which we may call enlightenment. So this is the times of reflection. This is the way that we come to terms with the fact that because we were born, we will at some time, hopefully in the more distant future, but those of us who are in the so-called vulnerable group, it's more of a closer sense of the impending change in our life. So, being in that somewhat isolated existence, it also gives us the opportunity to be more attentive or mindful of what it is to be alive. And as I like to use the acronym, ALIVE, aware, loving, inspired, valued, engaged. That's the spiritual life that I feel can awaken in us. And in a way, we're compelled to come alive. That's what we call the Hongan, the primal vow, the deepest wish in life. May we all come alive to realize our oneness in immeasurable life. So those are the causes and conditions that we're experiencing now to reflect and to be able to awaken, to realize a sense of being alive, truly, in the midst of these unprecedented, uncertain, and perhaps anxious times. But it is within that swamp of anxiety, fear, unknown, that, again, the spiritual heart of the Buddha can be awakened in us to hear the call of that mind and heart of boundless wisdom and compassion as we express it, Namu Amida Butsu, that is dedicated to transforming our fear into assurance, our conflicts into peace, and most basically, our complaints into gratitude. So with that, I would like to conclude today's Shotsuki and Mother's Day reflection with this verse by former BCA minister, Reverend May Fujimoto, who in English translation shared this thought. Thinking of Buddha, thinking of Mother. When I think of it, my own mother gave me all the good things to eat. She ate only leftovers and was unable to even dress as she wanted. It was always for my child's sake, for my child's sake. My mother lived only for me. She grew old and wasted away before I even began realizing my great indebtedness to her. I realize this very clearly now. I can only ask those who cannot see their great indebtedness to their mother, how can you expect to appreciate your indebtedness to the Buddha, whose work you cannot see? If you do not appreciate your indebtedness to your mother, whose work can you see? The first thing we must do is worship our mother. The hands we place together in gassho towards our mother are also the minds that worship the Buddha. The mind that thinks of mother is also the mind that thinks of Buddha. The single word, Okasan, is surely what brings our entire life into focus. Similarly, the single phrase, Namu Amida Butsu, is surely the great distillation of great compassion that, after preparing itself for 10 aeons, is continuously calling me. Mother and child become one within the single word Okasan, and that is where the world in which they are together is found. In the single voicing of Namo Amida Butsu, all sentient beings and the Buddha become one, and that is where they live for eternity. I recite the name and I hear the name, Namu Amida Butsu. This is the parent calling. I will always be with you. Namu Amida Butsu. 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 For today's appreciations, well, I'm repeating this because they're the ones, as far as I'm concerned, that make this possible. Kevin Yoza, our producer, and his assistant, Keith Fujimoto, who helped prepare and put this weekly virtual Sangha service together. And also, I'd once again like to acknowledge Aina Tao, who's been very thoughtful in sharing various things from the internet that offer ways of looking at and being comforted in this current situation. For announcements, reminders of Tuesday at 2, you're welcome to join the book club that we started a few weeks ago. That's reading together Why Buddhism is True by Robert Wright. So anyone who would like to join is welcome to contact the office or check online to see how to register and get the instructions for joining that Zoom gathering. And on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 p.m., you're also welcome to join the weekly mindfulness gathering led by Minister Assistant Leo Joslin. And so for that too, you're welcome to call or check online for the instructions for Zooming in to that gathering. And another reminder that the Junior YBA is participating in a Bay District Junior YBA fundraiser. It's a raffle. So anybody interested in making a donation for the raffle is welcome to check the Wheel of Light of Dharma on page 8 for that notice announcement, or call the office for the instructions on how you're able to make your donations for the raffle. Okay, and then for next week's Sangha service, we'll have Reverend Dr. David Pading, one of our assistants, share his reflections on Gotange, Shinran Shonin's birth celebration. Okay, so with that, again, thank you so much for being together in the Sangha. Take care.